What do these results tell you about the affluent? They suggest that a business owner who is worth, say, $2 million on average has an annual realized income of only $73,200, or 3.66% of $2 million. Could you live on $73,200 today and still invest a minimum of 15% each year? No, it's not easy. But it's not easy being financially dependent either. Financial in deep. We once asked a high-income/low net worth corporate manager, we will refer to him as Mr. Rodney, a simple question. Why is it that you never participated in your corporation's tax-advantaged stock purchase plan? This manager's employer offered him a matching stock purchase plan. Each year, the manager could purchase the equivalent of 6% of his income in shares of the corporation, which would reduce his realized taxable income. Also, the corporation would match his purchase of company stock up to a certain percentage of his income. Mr. Rodney reported that, unfortunately, he could not afford to participate. It seemed that all his income went toward his $4,200 monthly mortgage payment, 2 leased vehicles, tuition bills, club dues, a vacation home that needed to be fixed up, and taxes. Ironically, Mr. Rodney wants, eventually, to become financially independent. But like most UAWs, Mr. Rodney is not realistic in this regard. He has sold his financial independence. What if he had taken full advantage of the tax-advantaged benefit from the time he was first employed? Today, he would be a millionaire. Instead, he is on the perpetual earn and consume treadmill. We have interviewed countless high-income/low net worth people. Sometimes it can be depressing, especially when the respondents are seniors. How would you like to be a 67-year-old cardiologist who has no pension plan, never had a pension plan in spite of earning millions during his lifetime? His total net worth is less than $300,000. No wonder he started asking us questions such as, will I ever be able to retire? Even more revealing are the interviews we hold with the widows of UAWs. In many cases, the widow has been a housewife throughout her long marriage. Often her mate, a high-income/low net worth type, was underinsured or had no life insurance at all. My husband always said not to worry about money. I 71. Always be here, he said. Can you help me? What should I do? This is not a fun situation. How can well-educated, high-income people be so naive about money? Because being a well-educated, high-income earner does not automatically translate into financial independence. It takes planning and sacrificing. What if your goal is to become financially independent? Your plan should be to sacrifice high consumption today for financial independence tomorrow. Every dollar you earn to spend is first discounted by the tax man. Earning $100,000 may be required to purchase a $68,000 boat, for example. Millionaires tend to think this way. That's why only a minority own boats. Do you plan to live on a boat after you retire? Or would you prefer to live on a $3 million pension plan? Can you do both? HIGH status neighboro. If you read the last section about the IRS's study of the affluent care fully, a question may have come to your mind. Are the results of the surveys we conducted different than those generated from income tax and estate tax returns? You will recall that, on average, the millionaires in our latest survey had a total realized income that was about 6.7% of their total net worth. The results from the income tax and estate tax data, however, indicated that top wealth holders realized only 3.66% of their wealth. How can this difference be explained? And what does it mean? We employed a different sampling method than that used by the IRS. In its study of income tax and estate tax returns, our survey was based on sampling households that resided in high-status neighborhoods. whereas the IRS sampled from all income tax and estate tax returns. Since about half of the millionaires in America today do not live in so-called high-status neighborhoods, we also surveyed affluent farmers, auctioneers, and other wealthy people who live in non-status neighborhoods. Why do millionaires from high-status areas realize significant more of their wealth, 6.7%, than those top wealth holders? Selected from a national sample of all affluent decedents, 3.66%? Because the millionaires from high-status neighborhoods have to realize more income to live in these areas. What are the implications of our findings? It's easier to accumulate wealth if you don't live in a high-status neighborhood. But even those millionaires who do live in high-status areas realize only 6.7% of their wealth each year. Think of their non-affluent neighbors who, on average, must constantly realize more than 40% of their wealth just for the joy of living in a high-status gitch. Perhaps you aren't as wealthy as you should be because you traded much of your current and future income just for the privilege of living in a home in a high-status neighborhood. So even if you're earning $100,000 a year, you're not becoming wealthy. What you probably don't know is that your neighbor in the $300,000 house next to yours bought his house only after he became wealthy. You bought yours in anticipation of becoming wealthy. That day may never come. Each year you are forced to maximize realized income just to make ends meet. You can't afford to invest any money. Essentially, you're at a stalemate. Your high domestic overhead requires full commitment of all your income. You will never become financially independent without purchasing investments that appreciate without income realization. So what's it going to be? Will you choose a lifetime of high taxes and high status living, or will you change your address? Allow us to help you in your decision making. Here is another one of our rules. If you're not yet wealthy but want to be someday, never purchase a home that requires a mortgage that is more than twice your household's total annual realized income. Living in less costly areas can enable you to spend less and to invest more of your income. You will pay less for your home and correspondingly less for your property taxes. Your neighbors will be less likely to drive expensive motor vehicles. You will find it easier to keep up, even ahead of the Joneses, and still accumulate wealth. It's your choice. Perhaps you will make a better one than a young stockbroker, Bob, we recently advised. We gave him the same advice about the ideal ratio of home price to income. This 37-year-old broker had a total realized income of $84,000. He wanted our advice about buying a $310,000 home. He planned to make a down payment of $60,000. He also planned to become wealthy. Carrying a $250,000 mortgage, we felt, would be an impediment to his goal. We suggested that he buy something less expensive, such as a $200,000 home with a $140,000 mortgage. This would be within the parameters of the rule. Bob rejected this advice. He did not want to live in a neighborhood full of truckers and construction workers. After all, he is a financial consultant and a college graduate. But what Bob does not realize is that many construction workers and their spouses have combined incomes of more than $84,000. Of course, his mortgage broker told him he was qualified for a $250,000 mortgage. But that's like asking a fox to estimate the number of chickens in your coop. TIMENERGYANDMONE. They allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently in ways conducive to building wealth. Emulation, energy, and simply money in ways people who consistent with enhancing their net become wealthy allocate their time. Worth. Although both prodigious accumulators and underaccumulators of wealth state similar goals about achieving wealth, these groups have completely different orientations when it comes to how much time they actually spend on wealth-building activities. PAs allocate nearly twice the number of hours per month to planning their financial investments as UAWs do. There is a strong positive correlation between investment planning and wealth accumulation. UAWs spend less time than PAs consulting with professional investment advisors, searching for quality accountants, attorneys, and investment counselors, and attending investment planning seminars. PAs, on average, spend less time worrying about their economic well-being. We have determined that under-accumulators are much more concerned than prodigious accumulators with the prospects of plus not being wealthy enough to retire in comfort, plus never accumulating significant wealth. Are their concerns realistic? Yes. Yet UAWs spend more time worrying about these issues than taking proactive steps to change their tendencies to overconsume and underinvest. What type of person recently indicated that he was afraid and wore? Read about the following two issues. 1. Experiencing a significant reduction in his standard of living. 2. Not having an income high enough to satisfy his family's purchasing habits. Who is this person? Perhaps he is a mail carrier with 2 children in college. Or perhaps he is a single, low-income parent who has to raise 3 children. Do you envision a middle-aged corporate manager who recently found out that his position would be eliminated? Certainly these are logical guesses. People in these categories would very likely express fear about having to reduce their standard of living and not having the income to satisfy their family's buying habits. But none of these people is the one we are about to profile. The respondent who actually expressed these fears and worries is a surgeon in his 50s whom we shall call Drive South. See Table 3.1. He is married and has 4 children. Why should he be worried about his standard of living and his income? Could it be that he's down on his luck, perhaps unable to continue to practice medicine because of a disability? No. Actually, he is a fine physician who earned more than $700,000 during the year prior to our interview with him. But in spite of his high income, his net worth in real terms is declining. He has reasons to be afraid and worried. Drive North is very similar to Drive South in age, income, and family composition. But Drive North is a PW. His profile is also detailed later in this chapter. Drive North has far fewer worries than Drive South. He is not afraid of being forced to reduce his standard of living. Unlike Drive South, he is not concerned that his income will not be high enough to satisfy his family's purchasing habits. This is especially interesting given that both Drive South and Drive North have similar incomes. The case studies that follow will introduce you to these physicians and their families. You will learn a lot about how each man makes use of his time, energy, and money. But before we profile these 2 physicians in detail, we will discuss the income and wealth accumulating habits of physicians in general. Doctors, PAs, and UWS. On average, physicians earn more than 4 times the income of the average American household, $140,000 versus $33,000. But Dr. South and Drive North are hardly average physicians. They are gifted and highly trained specialists. In fact, the average annual income for someone in their specialty is more than $300,000. But again, they are extraordinary even among their cohorts. Last year, they each earned more than $700,000. In spite of his income, Dr. South has a relatively small level of accumulated wealth. He spends a lot, invests little. Our research has found that physicians in general do not tend to be wealth accumulators. In fact, among all major high-income producing occupations, physicians have a significantly low propensity to accumulate substantial wealth. For every 1 doctor in the PW group, there are 2 in the UAW category.